Alrighty, recently played. Here we are again. Top albums of the year. In the past, I've done 100 albums, I've done 10 albums. So this year, I thought I'd make it a solid 25 albums that I really enjoyed this year. Now, if you enjoy this video and you want to check out more reviews, commentary, and recommendations, you can go ahead and check me out on Instagram, Recently Played with Sean. I'm posting that kind of content pretty regularly on there, and make sure to subscribe over here to my YouTube channel as well, because I do try to post some longer format videos on here every once in a while. And now let's get down to it. Here are my top 25 albums of 2023, ranked in order of my personal subjective feelings. At number 25, Chill Kill by Red Velvet. A solid full length from what is quite possibly my favorite K-pop group. It was so nice to hear them return to sounds and concepts that they haven't explored in a while. And fittingly, this album sees them reflecting on their setbacks, accepting an uncertain future, and ultimately feeling grateful for the experience. Alrighty, throwing a curveball right away at number 24, it's No Public Sounds and Aitai Suru Kemuri by Ozhora Kimishima. Experimental rock musician Ozhora Kimishima gave us two great full-length albums this year. Both of them are quite dense, elaborate, and sentimental sounding. One is a little more low-key and spacey, one's a little more loud and aggressive. I think they pair quite well together, and it's impressive that we got them both within the same year. Number 23, Little Songs by Colter Wall. Celebrating the simple joy of classic country songs with production and vocals that are just about as faithful to the genre as you can possibly get. Colter Wall wanted to take the listeners to the prairies of Saskatchewan, and I definitely got that imagery, partly because I've been there. A few years back, I went on a little road trip all over the province, and this album definitely took me back to those wide open plains. Filling up the big empty with little songs, I love it. Number 22, Blómi by Susanne Sundfør. A very solid folk rock album from the Norwegian singer-songwriter. I like how it starts off kind of experimental and spacey and then gradually builds toward that more folk sound. The vocals are wonderful. I love the themes of family and thankfulness, and it's just such a pleasant listen overall. The single Alyosha in particular is great. And it prompted me to go and listen to some Carole King and Joni Mitchell, which was nice as well. Number 21, The Clod by No Party for Saodong. Making a remarkable comeback after the tragic death of drummer Fan Sai, Taiwanese band No Party for Saodong return with another high-energy mix of indie rock, pop, and hard rock / punk. I love the chants and those big choruses. I found this album to be very fun and enjoyable. 20, Unlock My World by Fromis9. We often applaud K-pop groups for pushing boundaries, but I think nailing that formula of making fun, high-energy girl group music is equally deserving of attention. And with solid dance music production and themes of self-love and growth, this is a great full-length K-pop album. At number 19, Ontological Mysterium by Horrendous. Think fire-breathing dragons, think of epic medieval battles, think Dio standing atop a jagged mountain. This album embraces the nerdiness of 80s speed metal in all its glory, and it's also tightly produced with great songwriting and dynamics. At number 18, Live at Kannai Hall by Kaneko Ayano. This album is all passion. In a way, it embodies Ayano Kaneko's music so perfectly in how far from perfect it is. There's stumbles and fumbles, but none of that matters. As a performer, she is just so captivating, and a long solo performance like this encapsulates that so well. Number 17, 9-Bit by QUBIT. Going from experimental whisper rap to major label J-pop to indie art pop, Daoko is perhaps one of the most interesting pop artists I can think of, and this year saw her forming an all-new rock band called QUBIT. The resulting debut album is bright, fun, glitchy, and energetic, with touches of jazz fusion, electronic, and city pop. As someone who's been following Daoko for a while now, I think this band and this album suits her eclectic personality quite well. At number 16, Space Heavy by King Krule. The idea of barren open space is so well captured in this album. How this abstract idea can be frightening and anxiety-inducing, but also can provide a sense of peace and comfort. And the album is so beautifully arranged with a minimal set of instruments and just these really nice, intimate guitar tones. At number 15, New Neighbors by Homecomings. I liked Homecomings' 2021 album, Moving Days, and this is a solid follow-up. That warm and raw folk rock production, those tight instrumentals, and the soothing vocals all make this such a pleasurable listen. A long and slow burn, but a solid indie rock album nonetheless that is very much worth a full listen. At number 14, One by Youra. I initially had her pinned down as more of an indie pop artist, but then she gave us a collaborative album with jazz trio Mandong and then put out this album. Produced by Namhyun Song of Mandong, it delves into jazz, chamber pop, folktronica, and beyond in a rather short amount of time. The mix of the ambitious nature of this album with Youra's unique vocals is a winning combo. At number 13, Jinkougaku by ZUTOMAYO. I didn't listen to much J-pop this year prior to listening to this album, but afterwards it kind of prompted me to go on a huge J-pop binge and reminded me of just how much I like the genre. I went back and started listening to some Ayumi Hamasaki and Zard. And this is just a big album full of solid J-pop hooks with this elaborate big budget production. And the cherry on top is this cool city pop edge, which actually works quite well and doesn't feel forced. At number 12, The Bat by Mandong. Through their collaborations with Youra, Mandong have been proving themselves to be an increasingly relevant group in Korea's indie scene. This album is so sparse and open, yet dramatic and heavy. It's a very solid instrumental rock/jazz album. And I think it would be cool to see them follow the trajectory of a group like Bad Bad Not Good and continue to collaborate with other artists. At number 11, World of Hassle by Alan Palomo. I've always thought that Alan Palomo of Neon Indian seemed like a pretty interesting person, and that's what made me happy to hear him put out his most personalized work to date. This album is cinematic in its quirkiness, and I love the amount of attention that was paid to world building and storytelling. On top of that, it's just so tightly produced and hard-hitting. Alrighty, top 10. At number 10, Bryan by Bryan. For as much as this album is raw and minimal and indie folk sounding, I think it's just as much of a mainstream country album, and it just rides that line between the two so well. It is so soulful and tastefully produced. Whether or not country is your thing, I just find this a very hard album to dislike. At number 9, Wow by Kate NV. Something about the absurd, simple playfulness of this album just makes you feel like you're in kindergarten painting with bright colors. And there's a sense of peacefulness that comes with that total break from reality. Ambient music isn't usually so much fun to listen to, and that's what really made me enjoy this album over and over again. Number 8, With a Hammer by Yaeji. From an artist that is hard to pin down comes an album that is equally difficult to define. I'm not always sure how this album is intended to make me feel. It's not cathartically sad, but it is quite emotional. And it's not overwhelmingly joyous, but it is quite hopeful and wise. And I think it's that emotional depth that kept me glued to this album. At number 7, False Lankum by Lankum. I can't say traditional Irish folk music was really on my radar this year, and that's part of what makes this album such a triumph. They mix traditional folk instruments and songs with modern production techniques and do such a great job of bringing in a new audience into this pretty niche genre of music, showing you just how intense and beautiful it can be. At number 6, Dusk to Dawn by Lamp. Lamp is a great band, and they've been a great band for a long time now, and this big album filled with their signature brand of jazz, pop, funk, soul, and Shibuya-kei is an absolute pleasure. Beautiful production and arrangements, I love the strings, I love the harp, and just everything about this album is so nice. At number 5, DIPUC by Cacophony. Cacophony is simply a phenomenal vocalist, and this album is stunning. It's mature, it's dark, it's cinematic, it's emotionally intense. I love how hyper-focused the album is on her voice and the subtleties of her singing. And on top of that, there's cool brushes of hyperpop in the production, mixed in with some really interesting arrangements. Just a fantastic release overall. At number 4, Soft Scars by Yeule. This album demonstrated an amazing artistic progression from Yeule. I think it pairs so well with last year's Glitch Princess, kind of feeling like this more bright and positive counterpart. The alternative rock direction feels natural, and it is quite cool how Yeule blends it with their glitchy electronic pop, especially with all of the vocal effects. The final product is quite unique. Alright, at number 3, ANOCHI by Gezan and Million Wish Collective. Gezan is an awesome band, and this is the album that I was waiting for them to make. Getting lost in its epic, beautiful chaos is such a great experience, and they make you feel like you're going through this elaborate initiation for their weird cult, and honestly, I'm down. At number 2, Javelin by Sufjan Stevens. Maybe the perfect Sufjan Stevens album doesn't exist, but this one is pretty darn close. It takes all of the soulful and vulnerable songwriting that made Carrie and Lowell a classic and mixes it with Sufjan's explosive creativity. I initially thought this album would be on the minimal side, given how he made most of it independently, but I was pleasantly surprised to hear how elaborate and expansive it turned out to be. And here we are again. My number 1 album of 2023 is After the Magic by Parannoul. An absolutely gorgeous and lush rock album. Parannoul really outdid himself. Perhaps there were individual songs from other artists that I might have liked better than any of the songs individually on this album, but if we're talking about the album as a whole, I just found it to be so cohesive and so seamless. All of the songs just fit so well together. It's a great, beautiful listening experience. I find myself liking it more and more every time I hear it, and that's why I'm going to say After the Magic, Parannoul is my favorite album of 2023. And there you have it. That's 25 albums from 2023 that I thoroughly enjoyed. I highly recommend you go check out some of these. I don't think a person exists that has listened to all of these albums. I would be very surprised if there is someone out there who has indeed listened to all of the albums I just listed in full. So hopefully there was at least one album in there that you discovered through this video and you thought was pretty good. And if that did happen, then why not give me a like and subscribe, and head over to Instagram and give me a follow over there as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.